In the heart of the African savanna, two villages lay nestled amidst sprawling landscapes of rolling hills and lush greenery. Umoja and Jirani, once united by kinship and trade, now stood divided by a deep-rooted rivalry. Umoja, known for its skilled craftsmen and vibrant marketplaces, thrived on the western bank of the river Nyota. Jirani, celebrated for its fierce warriors and bountiful farmlands, flourished on the eastern bank. The villages were a tapestry of culture and tradition. Umoja's huts were adorned with intricate carvings, and its marketplaces buzzed with the exchange of goods and stories. The people of Umoja wore brightly colored garments, reflecting their lively spirits and artistic inclinations. Jirani, on the other hand, showcased strength and resilience. Their homes, built sturdily to withstand the elements, were decorated with symbols of their warrior heritage. The villagers dressed in earthy tones, with warriors often seen wearing animal hides and carrying spears. Amani, a young woman from Umoja, was known for her wisdom and courage. With her braided hair adorned with beads and a constant look of determination in her eyes, she was a beacon of hope for her people. Despite her youth, Amani had become a trusted advisor to the village elders, her voice carrying weight in the council meetings. She was driven by a vision of peace and unity, often dreaming of a time when the rivalry between Umoja and Jirani would be nothing more than a distant memory. In Jirani, Kofi stood out among the warriors. Tall and strong, with a calm demeanor and sharp intellect, Kofi was both a skilled fighter and a thoughtful strategist. His short-cropped hair and piercing eyes gave him an air of authority, and he was well respected among his peers. Unlike many of his fellow villagers, Kofi saw beyond the immediate conflicts and believed in the possibility of reconciliation. His secret love for Amani fueled his hope for a future where Umoja and Jirani could coexist in harmony. Limited resource, essential for both villages' sustenance. What began as a dispute over land soon escalated into a series of conflicts, with each side blaming the other for their hardships. Over time, the initial cause of the conflict faded into the background, replaced by a cycle of mistrust and hostility. Misunderstandings and provocations kept the flame of rivalry burning. Stories of past betrayals were passed down through generations, solidifying the enmity between the two villages. Even as the land healed and resources became abundant once more, the bitterness lingered, preventing any meaningful reconciliation. Recently, tensions had flared once again. A series of unfortunate incidents, stolen livestock, mysterious fires, and a poisoned water source, had pushed the villages to the brink of war. Each side accused the other of sabotage, and the fragile peace that had persisted for a few years crumbled. Village elders from both sides convened meetings, but the discussions quickly turned into heated arguments, with no resolution in sight. As the situation worsened, the younger generation, including Amani and Kofi, felt the weight of their ancestors' legacy pressing upon them. They realized that the path to peace would not be easy, but they were determined to find a way to break the cycle of hatred. With both villages preparing for an inevitable conflict, Amani and Kofi knew that time was running out. They needed a plan, one that could not only prevent further bloodshed but also pave the way for a lasting peace. The morning sun cast a golden hue over the village of Umoja as Amani walked through the marketplace, her mind heavy with thoughts of the recent skirmishes. She paused to greet vendors and inspect the vibrant array of fruits and handmade crafts, but her heart wasn't in it. Every smile and friendly exchange felt like a fragile veneer over the tension that simmered beneath the surface. Meanwhile, across the river in Jirani, Kofi was preparing for another patrol. The previous night's raid on their livestock had left the village in an uproar. Accusations flew, and tempers flared. Kofi's father, the village chief, had urged caution, but many of the younger warriors were eager for retribution. "Stay alert," Kofi instructed his men as they moved out. "We can't afford any more surprises." As Kofi's patrol approached the river, they spotted a group of Umoja villagers on the opposite bank. Suspicion and mistrust hung heavy in the air as both sides watched each other warily. The slightest misstep could spark another conflict. The air, as both sides watched each other warily. The slightest misstep could spark another conflict. In Umoja, the village council convened in the large meeting hut. its walls adorned with ancient carvings that told the history of their people. Amani took her place among the elders, her presence a testament to her growing influence. "We cannot ignore these provocations," Elder Badu said, his voice gruff with age. "Jirani must answer for their actions. But we must also seek the truth," Amani countered. "Rushing to conclusions will only lead to more bloodshed. We need to find a way to communicate with them, to understand their perspective." Across the river, a similar meeting took place in Jirani. Chief Kwame, Kofi's father, addressed the gathered warriors and elders. "We must be strong, but we must also be wise," he said. "Retaliation without evidence will only escalate the conflict. We need to gather more information and seek a peaceful resolution if possible." Kofi listened intently, his mind racing with possibilities. He knew that finding common ground would be difficult, but he also believed it was the only way to prevent further violence. Despite the calls for caution, both villages began preparing for the worst. In Umoja, blacksmiths worked tirelessly to forge new weapons, while warriors trained rigorously. Amani watched with a heavy heart as her people readied themselves for battle. In Jirani, the atmosphere was similarly charged. Kofi oversaw the training sessions, his thoughts often drifting to Amani and their secret meetings by the river. He knew that their love could be the key to ending the conflict, but revealing it now could be dangerous. As the days passed, the preparations intensified. Both villages fortified their defenses and stockpiled supplies. The sense of impending doom grew stronger with each passing day, and the hopes for a peaceful resolution seemed to fade. Yet, in the midst of this turmoil, Amani and Kofi remained determined. They continued to meet in secret, sharing information and devising a plan to bring their villages together. They knew that the path to peace would be fraught with challenges, but they were willing to risk everything for the sake of their people. The first major clash between Umoja and Jirani took place on a stretch of fertile land near the river. The morning mist clung to the grass as warriors from both villages faced off, their expressions a mix of determination and fear. Amani stood at the edge of the battlefield, her heart pounding in her chest. She had tried to prevent this, but now all she could do was pray for a swift end to the violence. Across the field, she spotted Kofi, his spear raised and ready. Their eyes met briefly, a silent plea for understanding passing between them. The battle began with the clash of spears and the roar of warriors. Umoja's craftsmen had created formidable weapons, but Jirani's warriors were fierce and well-trained. The air was thick with the sounds of combat, the cries of the wounded, and the thud of bodies hitting the ground. Amani moved through the chaos, tending to the injured and calling for an end to the fighting. She saw friends and family fall, and her resolve hardened. She would not let their sacrifice be in vain. Kofi fought valiantly, his mind torn between his duty and his love for Amani. He knew that the only way to stop the bloodshed was to reach her and find a way to communicate with both sides. But as the battle raged on, it seemed like an impossible task. In the midst of the battle, personal stories of bravery and sacrifice unfolded. Juma, a young warrior from Umoja, fought with a ferocity born of desperation. His family had lost everything in the recent conflicts, and he was determined to protect what little they had left. Despite his youth, Juma's courage inspired those around him. On the Jirani side, Nia, a fierce warrior with a sharp mind, led her unit with precision. She had trained under Kofi's guidance and shared his belief in the possibility of peace. As she fought, she kept an eye on Kofi, understanding his internal struggle and hoping for a chance to end the violence. Amid the chaos, moments of humanity shone through. Warriors from both sides showed mercy to the wounded and shared brief, poignant exchanges that hinted at a deeper desire for peace. These small acts of kindness provided a glimmer of hope in an otherwise dark and brutal conflict. As the sun set, the battle finally drew to a close. The fertile land was now a field of sorrow, littered with the bodies of the fallen and the cries of the grieving. Both sides retreated, nursing their wounds and mourning their losses. Amani and Kofi met in the twilight, their hearts heavy with the weight of the day's events. They knew that the battle had achieved nothing but more pain and suffering. As they held each other, they vowed to redouble their efforts to bring peace to their villages. The aftermath of the battle left both Umoja and Jirani reeling. The villagers buried their dead and tended to the injured, their anger and grief simmering just below the surface. The fragile peace that had once seemed possible now felt like a distant dream. Yet, amid the despair, there were signs of hope. The personal stories of bravery and kindness during the battle had not gone unnoticed. Some villagers began to question the necessity of the conflict, wondering if there might be another way. Amani and Kofi knew that the road to peace would be long and difficult, but they were more determined than ever. They continued to meet in secret, sharing their plans and dreams for a future where their villages could coexist in harmony. And as they worked tirelessly to bridge the divide, they began to see the first glimmers of hope on the horizon. With the recent battle still fresh in their minds, Amani and Kofi knew that they had to act quickly. They couldn't let the sacrifice of their people be in vain. In one of their secret meetings by the river, they devised a plan to bring the village leaders together. "We need to show them that there is a better way," Amani said, her voice firm. "We have to find a way to communicate and build trust." Kofi nodded, his expression serious. "We need to start with small steps. If we can get them to agree to a temporary ceasefire, it will give us time to work on a more permanent solution." Their plan involved gathering a group of trusted individuals from both villages who believed in the possibility of peace. These peace advocates would work behind the scenes to build support for the ceasefire and prepare the ground for a formal negotiation. Amani and Kofi began reaching out to those they trusted. In Umoja, Amani spoke with Elder Badu and other influential figures, sharing her vision for peace and explaining the importance of the ceasefire. Despite their initial skepticism, they were moved by her passion and agreed to support her efforts. In Jirani, Kofi approached Chief Kwame and his fellow warriors, emphasizing the need to end the cycle of violence. He spoke of the personal stories of bravery and kindness during the recent battle, highlighting the common humanity that united them all. Slowly, he won their support. The peace advocates from both villages met in secret, coordinating their efforts and planning the details of the ceasefire. They knew that their actions would be risky, but they were willing to take the chance for the sake of a better future. The day of the secret meeting arrived. Representatives from Umoja and Jirani gathered at a neutral location by the river, away from prying eyes. The atmosphere was tense, but there was also a sense of hope and possibility. Amani and Kofi stood side by side, their hearts pounding as they prepared to address the gathered leaders. They spoke of their shared vision for peace, the need to end the violence, and the potential for a brighter future if they could work together. To their relief, the leaders listened. The recent battle had taken a heavy toll on both villages, and many were tired of the constant fighting. After hours of discussion and negotiation, they finally agreed to a temporary ceasefire. It was a small victory, but it was a crucial first step. As the meeting concluded, Amani and Kofi felt a surge of hope. They knew that the road ahead would be challenging, but they also knew that they had taken a significant step towards their goal. The temporary ceasefire provided them with the time and space they needed to work on a more permanent solution. The temporary ceasefire brought a welcome respite to both Umoja and Jirani. For the first time in months, there was a sense of calm and hope. Villagers began to venture out without fear, and the atmosphere in the marketplaces and fields started to improve. Amani and Kofi worked tirelessly to maintain the ceasefire and build on its success. They organized a series of formal negotiations between the village leaders, focusing on areas of mutual interest and cooperation. These meetings were tense and often challenging, but progress was slowly made. During the negotiations, Amani and Kofi emphasized the importance of trust and understanding. They encouraged the leaders to share their fears and concerns, fostering an environment where open communication could flourish. Gradually, the walls of mistrust began to crumble. With the ceasefire holding, Umoja and Jirani started to rebuild. Joint community projects were launched, bringing villagers from both sides together. These initiatives included repairing damaged infrastructure, improving irrigation systems, and restoring communal spaces. As villagers worked side by side, they began to see each other in a new light. Old prejudices and stereotypes were challenged, and friendships started to form. Amani and Kofi were heartened by these developments, knowing that the foundation for lasting peace was being laid. To further strengthen the bonds between Umoja and Jirani, Amani and Kofi organized a series of cultural exchange events. These gatherings celebrated the unique traditions, music, and cuisine of both villages, fostering a deeper understanding and appreciation of their shared heritage. The cultural exchange events were a resounding success. Villagers from both sides participated enthusiastically, sharing stories, dancing, and enjoying each other's company. These events helped to break down barriers and build a sense of unity and community. With trust and cooperation growing, Umoja and Jirani embarked on more ambitious joint community projects. These initiatives included building new schools, healthcare centers, and communal gardens. The villages pooled their resources and knowledge, creating a sense of shared purpose and achievement. The joint projects had a transformative effect on both villages. The new facilities improved the quality of life for all villagers, and the collaborative efforts strengthened the bonds between them. Amani and Kofi took great pride in seeing their people work together towards a common goal. A key focus of the joint projects was investing in the future generations. Education became a priority, with new schools providing children from both villages with access to quality learning. These children, growing up in an environment of cooperation and understanding, became the torchbearers of peace. Amani and Kofi worked closely with educators to develop programs that emphasized the values of unity, empathy, and respect. They knew that the future of Umoja and Jirani depended on instilling these principles in the young minds. Amani and Kofi's love story became a powerful symbol of the reconciliation between Umoja and Jirani. Their courage and determination to bridge the divide inspired countless others. As they continued to lead their villages, their story was passed down through generations, becoming a legend of hope and unity. Years passed, and the once rival villages of Umoja and Jirani thrived in harmony. The journey from rivalry to unity had been long and challenging, but the resilience and determination of their people had prevailed. Amani and Kofi, now elders themselves, looked back on their journey with pride and gratitude. The legacy of their efforts was visible in every aspect of village life. The peace and prosperity that Umoja and Jirani enjoyed were a testament to the power of unity and the strength of the human spirit. The story of their reconciliation became a beacon of hope for other communities facing similar challenges. As Umoja and Jirani continued to rebuild and recover, the healing process took on both physical and emotional dimensions. The scars of war were deep, and while the villages had made significant strides towards peace, the memories of conflict lingered. Amani and Kofi spearheaded initiatives to address these lingering wounds. They organized community therapy sessions where villagers could share their experiences and feelings. These gatherings provided a safe space for people to express their grief, anger, and hopes for the future. In addition to the therapy sessions, both villages embraced their traditional healing practices. Umoja's artisans created beautiful sculptures and paintings that depicted scenes of reconciliation and hope. These artworks were displayed throughout the villages, serving as constant reminders of their journey towards peace. Jirani's warriors, known for their physical prowess, led communal dances and ceremonies that celebrated strength, resilience, and unity. These events not only uplifted spirits, but also reinforced the bonds between the villagers. With the foundations of peace firmly in place, Umoja and Jirani embarked on innovative projects that would ensure a prosperous future for both villages. They began by improving agricultural techniques, sharing knowledge and resources to increase crop yields and ensure food security. Amani led a project to introduce sustainable farming practices, focusing on crop rotation and organic fertilizers. Kofi, leveraging his strategic mind, coordinated the construction of shared granaries and irrigation systems that benefited both villages. Recognizing the importance of education, both villages invested heavily in their schools. They built new classrooms, hired more teachers, and developed a curriculum that included not only academic subjects but also lessons on peace building, empathy, and cooperation. Amani and Kofi personally mentored a group of young leaders from both villages. They organized workshops and seminars that focused on leadership, conflict resolution, and community service. These young leaders became role models, inspiring their peers to contribute positively to their communities. Despite their progress, Umoja and Jirani faced numerous challenges. Old prejudices occasionally resurfaced, and there were moments when the fragile peace seemed threatened. However, the strong foundation of trust and cooperation they had built allowed them to navigate these obstacles. A significant challenge arose when a severe storm damaged crops and homes in both villages. Instead of retreating into old patterns of blame, the villagers came together to rebuild. Amani and Kofi coordinated relief efforts, ensuring that resources were distributed fairly and efficiently. As the villages overcame each challenge, they celebrated their achievements with festivals and ceremonies. These celebrations were a testament to their resilience and unity. The annual Harvest Festival became a particularly important event, symbolizing their collective efforts and shared prosperity. During these festivals, Amani and Kofi were often honored for their leadership and vision. They accepted these honors with humility, always emphasizing that the real heroes were the villagers who had embraced the path of peace and worked tirelessly to build a better future. To ensure that the peace and prosperity would continue for future generations, Umoja and Jirani established several institutions dedicated to maintaining unity and fostering development. They created a joint council that included representatives from both villages, responsible for overseeing community projects and resolving disputes. These institutions became the bedrock of their new society, providing structure and stability. They also established a cultural center that celebrated the unique heritage of both villages, ensuring that their traditions would be preserved and respected. As the villages flourished, Amani and Kofi also experienced personal growth. They married in a joyous ceremony attended by villagers from both Umoja and Jirani, symbolizing the union of their communities. Their love story became an enduring symbol of the power of unity and reconciliation. Together, they started a family, raising their children with the values of empathy, cooperation, and respect. They continued to serve their villages, mentoring the next generation of leaders and ensuring that their legacy of peace would endure. As elders, Amani and Kofi often reflected on the journey they had undertaken. They shared their experiences and wisdom with the villagers, emphasizing the importance of empathy, understanding, and resilience. Their story became a cornerstone of the village's collective memory, inspiring future generations to uphold the values of peace and unity. They also engaged in broader efforts to share their story beyond Umoja and Jirani. They participated in regional councils and conferences, advocating for peaceful conflict resolution and community-driven development. Their story resonated with many, offering hope and guidance to other communities facing similar challenges. As their journey drew to a close, Amani and Kofi remained hopeful for the future. They envisioned a world where communities could overcome their differences and work together towards common goals. They believed that the lessons learned from Umoja and Jirani's reconciliation could be a beacon of hope for others. Their legacy lived on in the hearts and minds of their people. Umoja and Jirani continued to thrive, guided by the principles of unity, cooperation, and mutual respect. Amani and Kofi's story became a timeless testament to the power of love and the enduring strength of the human spirit. As the story of Umoja and Jirani came to an end, Amani and Kofi had one final message for their people and the world. Let us always remember that peace is possible, even in the face of great adversity. By embracing our shared humanity and working together with compassion and understanding, we can build a brighter future for all.